All right, and we are live. Welcome back with Murphy Mac to another episode of the Fitness Beginner Podcast, where we help you get started on your fitness journey. How's it going on? How's it going, everybody? We have another podcast episode for y'all today, and we have a guest joining us on the podcast. We have Mr. Chris Ryan joining us, and we're bringing him up onto the screen now. If you're watching the video, so Chris, first off, thank you for joining the podcast. We appreciate it. I just want to let you know
Thank
a
you for
little bit
having
about
me.
Absolutely. A little bit about the podcast is it's called the Fitness Beginner Podcast, and the whole idea is just to help either beginners or people that are getting back into fitness to try to help them, get motivated, learn a little bit about fitness, just to kind of keep them going so they can, improve upon, what this new goal that they have, or if they just we don't go too deep into the weeds of things. We normally keep it pretty
Yep,
basic. And then when we have people on, of course, then we'll dive deeper into certain topics. So we like having people on to do a quick little interview. So
for sure.
that's the kind of gist of the podcast. So if you would, just kind of let everybody know who you are and what you do.
All right. Hey, everybody. I'm Chris Ryan. I'm a fitness expert. I've been in the fitness industry for 20 plus years now. Been a long time athlete since I was a kid. I ran track Division One level in college at the University of Florida, the 800 meters. Go Gators. And I ran track down there. And then after that, got in the business world a little bit, but then fell back in love with my passions of health and fitness and built a business around that. And so I've written articles, appeared in magazines, all countless different variety from Men's Health, Men's Fitness, Women's Health, Shape Magazine, written for countless newspaper publications, Reader's Digest. Worked with brands like Nike and Lululemon, Under Armour, Adidas, Polar, heart rate monitors, you name it. Been there, done that. And now, most recently, I have my own fitness app that it offers live and on-demand workouts for beginners, just like this Fitness Beginner podcast, for at-home based workouts with minimal equipment like dumbbells and bands and body weight exercises. Tons of fun. So that offers live and hundreds of different on-demand workouts as well, from beginners all the way up through intermediate and advanced level exercisers. So it also offers nutrition-based programs on there as well, with meat and plant-based nutrition plans and diets. So really cover a wide basis of what I do. I make people the best version of themselves.
Awesome. Yeah, I checked out your website. Do you have like a million different workouts on there?
Yeah, it's a
You
lot,
got a
right?
lot.
It's a lot,
Yeah.
man. I trust me. It's been fun to shoot all that content over the last couple of years. I'm actually coming up on finishing up year two with the app, and yeah, there's like 700 plus workouts on there. Various variety of like 15 or 10, some 10-minute workouts. Most are between 15 and 45 minutes. There's a handful that are only 10-minute workouts, kind of get the true beginners really going with like very basic but effective platform in which to launch from. Or sometimes for the advanced people that are looking for like a little workout snack, if you will, that people like to say, or appetizer, where they don't have a lot of time. They're just like, I want to add this. I want to add an arm workout on the end of like a longer workout, for instance, or I had a quick cardio session onto the end of a workout. So I offer those as well. But in addition, we have stretch and mobility classes on there, so you're getting your body moving, feeling good. Because after all, it's not just about sweating and getting your lungs jumping out of your chest and getting your biceps pumped. It's more about feeling good overall. And even a good stretch mobility session can do that for you. Getting your shoulders pulled back, your hamstrings open, your hips loose, all that good stuff.
Yeah, stretching is crazy because it's one of those things like you don't ever do it, but then once you finally do it, you're like, man, I needed to do this more often because
Exactly.
you instantly feel better after you stretch.
Totally. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, one thing that I've been doing recently that I like is I'll just do dead hangs. Like I'll hang from a pull up bar.
Oh, I love it.
Man,
That's what's right
dude,
behind me. Grip strength
yeah,
wise, that's the best for like open up your shoulders, but it trains your grip. So strong grip is paramount to a whole host of different strength calibers, but also they've done a lot of studies recently that have come out about how grip strength is just for longevity too, for well into your decades ahead for both you and me. Of like, the stronger our grip is, the stronger we will be overall, and the more longevity we'll have in our overall lives. So I'm a big believer in that, especially because like strong hands and strong feet, I know there are furthest extremities, but they really go hand in hand into like, no pun intended, to like grabbing things, holding things, like bounce control with your feet, all that good stuff. That it's not just about like the big muscles, it's about a lot of the smaller functional muscles within your feet and your hands as well that can get you strong and give you a good quality of life as well.
So speaking of grip strength, would you recommend people like specifically train grip strength, or do you think they can just get it through weightlifting and things like that?
I think weightlifting is a great way. I mean, you can tell when you shake someone's hand, usually, like, do they work with their hands, whether it's in the trades or do they a farmer or do they weightlift and work out with weights a lot, right? Because you can really tell, like, someone who's working out with dumbbells or barbell, lifting heavy deadlifts, that sort of thing. You have to be crazy strong in your grip to lift several hundred pounds off the floor, for instance. Um, but in general, I think like hanging is probably one of the best things you can do because it opens up your lats and shoulders and helps pull your posture back, right? Pull your shoulder blades back, right? Open up your chest. So in addition to getting you strong, it also works on your mobility, you're stretching out your spine, your vertebrae. And it just decompresses your spine too, especially if you sit a lot. Like you and I are in the fitness industry, but I'm sure you're like me, you're in front of a computer for a good portion of your day, much more than you are training and exercising, right? And for myself, I feel like I'm just like anyone else in the 2026 world that is in you deal with technology day in and day out. You're on computers, no matter really what you do in this day and age. For the most part, you're in some way, shape, or form. A good portion of your day is seated in front of a computer, or a little bit better at a standing desk and that sort of a thing. Which this desk I'm on actually goes up and down, so sometimes I'll put it up and down depending on like what I'm doing for that day. But yeah, it's just the hanging is just awesome, and you can build into it too. For a true beginner, you can do it to where dangle your toes on the ground, or if it's not tall enough, put a bench or a seat underneath you, so you're kind of like putting on like maybe 2/3 of your body weight, and do that for 10 or 15 seconds, and then do it every other day or every day if you can for a little while, and then just add on 2 to 3 seconds per time or whatever, and it might be 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But you'd be surprised. Even we have 3 kids, and our older kids, they grip strength for sports, but also just to help them stretch out their bodies a little bit more, and just kind of like hanging from monkey bars like you used to as a kid, right? But as the kids get bigger, they're like 11 and a 9-year-old for our 2 oldest. It's a great way for them to help stretch out and decompress their spines after sitting in school all day, and work their grip strength as well for various different sports.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I sit at a desk all day, so it's you definitely feel your spine kind of decompress when you're
Totally.
hanging. I need to
It's
do it
about
more.
I feel like it's like for me, it's give or take around the 20-25 second mark where you feel like, especially your lumbar spine and the lower hip area,
Hmm.
and you just kind of feel it like just really like pull apart. That kind of like that warm sensation. The first 10 or 15 seconds, I don't. For me personally, I don't really feel it. And most people, it seems like it's about that 15 to 20, 25 second mark. So when you can build up to that point, you're really getting some good benefits out of it. And then the studies were saying, like a man should be able to hang for like 2 minutes, a woman for 90 seconds, which sounds crazy long time to hang from a bar with just a dead hang, where your lats are disengaged. But trust me, you can build up to it. Even somebody that can only hang for like 2 seconds right now, you can build up to it. You just got to do it slow and steady. Like, just like the old fable goes, right? It's like slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah, 2 minutes is a long time. I could probably get about 90 seconds, but 2 minutes
Hmm.
that's a long time to hang. Uh,
Yeah, I know. I thought so too, and until I did it, I was like always good for like I always kind of like 3 or 4 times a week I would just do 60 seconds, and that was fine. And all of a sudden I did. It was like, oh, let me just go for 90 seconds today. And then I read
mm.
something about this 2 minute standard, and I was like, whoa, that's like a game changer. You get out of that, and you're like, you feel like you're like 7 feet tall or something.
Yeah, I'm about to start. I'm about to do it some more. I need to, because every time I do it, I feel good. I'm like, dang, I need to
Hmm.
start doing that more often. So I'm about to add that in the routine.
Yep.
Um, so let's go back to, you say you were a D1 athlete. You were a sprinter,
Yeah.
right? 800 meters,
Middle distance. I wanted to be a
middle distance.
sprinter, but
Yeah.
yeah, I wanted to be a sprinter, but at a certain pinnacle of track and field, like you don't really get to pick your event. It's kind of like any position in any sort of team sport too. It's like, if you're playing hoops, like a guard's going to be a little bit shorter, right, than a center,
Hmm.
right? Like it's just the way it works out. Like
Where your
you might
body's
want to
built.
play center, but if you're only like 6'4", you're going to play playing guard. Only 6'4", right? Yeah, I wish I was 6'4", but yeah, but like and same thing with football. Like generally speaking, like a cornerback, for instance, is going to be like super short, fast guy covering the receivers, and your linemen are going to be big, strong individual. Very different positions for or different types of bodies types for each position across similar sports. in general, like football, but a football team has 11 guys on the field on one side of the ball. So the whole host of different sizes and speeds and strengths of those individuals. And just like in basketball, all the team sports out there, right? So track and field, middle distance is a tough event. I would say that like for the 800, it's probably a brutal event. Anyone that knows anything about track and field usually says, that's not the one that I would have hoped for. And I was like, no one hopes for it, I don't think. But now it's getting a lot of love because there's just a ton of different people out there on the men's and women's side across the board in the Olympics down to, the collegiate side that are just absolutely phenomenal athletes. So and I think it's getting a lot more respect than when I ran it.
Yeah, I've just recently got into running not sprinting, but long distance running. But I think running's like on the uprise right now. A lot of people are kind of getting into
Oh,
running.
for sure. I mean, Boston, the Boston Marathon just finished yesterday, and it's always inspirational to see that. But I do think like the more people could still run fast and still sprint, the better off they would be. I think like sometimes like the longer distance running for a lot of people, they tend to depend on the individual, especially since this is a beginner podcast or, for beginner people that are looking to start out. Sometimes when you can train slightly faster, I'm not talking full on 100-meter sprints like you're going to be Usain Bolt or anything like that, but just working on your running cadence, your running economy. You picture like your high school track, like run the straightaways at a decent clip and like jog the turns or walk the turns or vice versa. Or just going across the soccer field, like doing X's across the soccer field and walking the end zone lines and that sort of a thing. Those are always like really good style workouts, and you just do that set your clock for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and just kind of build up into those workouts. You'd be surprised at like how effective that workout would be for you, versus just kind of like plodding around at a very slow pace, which is what I see a lot of recreational runners doing. And they always think longer is always better, when in fact, better is always better, right? So when you can get your heart rate up a little bit more, encourage your muscles to be working as much as possible under that said time period that you had, doing shorter interval sprints like that for 15 minutes is going to be far more effective for most everyone's health goals, looking to like burn fat, build muscle, that sort of a thing. And also it'll help improve your running economy too, because the faster your clip is, the more efficient you have to be with your foot strike on the ground, your arm carry, your posture, everything like that.
Yeah, I like how you said like run the straightaways and then kind of jog around I never heard that before, but that's a good idea. That's
yeah, especially for beginners too. For anyone for that matter. Like you had said earlier, it's like something about you used the word basic or simple, right? And training at its core should be basic and simple, like, right? Like even elite athletes, they're still going to squat. They might squat with more weight than you, or at a higher velocity, a higher speed, coming back up from a squat depth hole, that sort of a thing. But like for the most part, like people still, like your body moves in a certain pattern. Like you need to lift, you need to squat, you need to push weight above your head, you need to push weight in front of you, you need to pull weight until you're in a row, you need to do pull-ups from top down. Like there's certain basic movements that are just inherent to getting super strong overall that will translate over to all your different sports, whatever that might be, or translate over to your overall goals. And most beginners, generally speaking, want to lose some weight. They want to work on stress relief, right? They like beat down cortisol. They would like to release endorphins and feel better. That's kind of one of those ancillary things that always kind of comes along when you exercise, that everyone's kind of like, oh, wow, I feel really dang good, right? And then, and hopefully maybe tone up and build some muscle too along the way. And so that's why like short little bouts of interval stresses, if you will, stresses are good things as long as you don't overstress the body. But generally speaking, like 20 to 45 seconds of like running a diagonal across the soccer field, there's not going to be as much pounding or jarring on your joints because you're running on grass. And then usually when you would walk or, jog the end zone lines back over to the opposite side, just keep on doing X's across, you'd be surprised at how effective like a workout like that would be for 10 to 15, 20 minutes for an average person out there.
Yeah, I like that. I wouldn't really recommend like long distance running for beginners. So I like how you condensed it down and made it like a little workout in itself. So that's a good idea. I like
especially on hard surfaces too. People would be, especially as people get older, like their 30s, 40s, 50s. I mean, I'm 40. I turn 46 tomorrow actually, and like for me, I limit myself to running on pavement 1 day a week. I just don't
Mm,
believe in it. And even elite marathoners, these are people that race for a living on pavement, right? Most elite marathoners spend probably 80 to 90% of their training as of the last few decades running on either a woodway style treadmill or anti-gravity type treadmill, or trails like dirt trails or grass trails, or pool running, deep water pool running, or some sort of combined like like a Rogue Echo bike or a Schwinn assault bike where the arms move with the legs, or a Hardy elliptical, like a heavy duty elliptical machine as well. And some of the elliptical machines are a little bit better. Just they're always looking for the way to increase their heart rate and get their heart rate in certain target zones, with some sort of like kind activity, right? So like even like stationary bikes can be very effective, up to a point. And so it's the cross training, but not losing sight of like what your overall goal is.
absolutely. So, so what got you into kind of training, personal training? How did you
Yeah.
make that transition? Did you do that out of college, or what got you
No,
into it?
not out of college. So after track, I was in business with my brother. We had built up some Surf Pro franchise businesses. We had bought into our first one, and then over the course of the next several years, we built it up to four businesses. And that's a franchise system that they deal with the glamorous world of water, fire, and mold damage restoration work. If you've ever had a water damage in your home, or mold damage, or a fire damage in your home or building, Surf Pro drives the green trucks. You might have seen those. And so we built that up. We built it up to like 20 plus employees. We did well with it. But at the age of 28, we sold it. When I was 28, we sold it. And I was like, what do I love to do? Because that was a 24/7 business. My cell phone was glued to my hip. And one of the things that got me through that time frame of like in my 20s of building a business, being pretty stressed out about a lot of times with this 24/7 business and making payroll for your employees and building out a business and everything that goes into being an entrepreneur with a brick and mortar business, especially, where families are relying on you to make the right decisions on a business level, and you're hiring people that are in their 50s, 3 decades older than you. So there's a lot of different stresses in your 20s when you're building a business like that. And when we sold that, I realized like what was getting me through those days. It was exercise. It was doing sprint triathlons. It was going and working out with weights. It was setting small goals of like trying to swim a mile in a pool, playing basketball, like pick up hoop games when I could, or playing tennis that I'd never ever played before. I basically learned it from scratch just by like playing a lot of soccer and basketball as a kid. I never touched a tennis racket or anything like that, but it was something fun to do in my 20s that, I was living in Florida at the time. I was like, hey, this is kind of fun. And it was the beginning era of like the Nadal Federer time frame and tennis and stuff. So that was always kind of fun to play. And just playing a different sport. I think picking up all sorts of different sports is always good at any age, from kids on up through adults. I think adults should play more, not just exercise more, but actually play more. And that's why I think like pickleball is great for people, as long as they don't go into it too hard. They warm up before. There's a lot of torn ACLs and Achilles tendons in the pickleball community because they don't warm up, they don't strength train, they haven't moved backwards or laterally in decades, and all of a sudden they're starting to do it on a pickleball court, bending over to hit a little plastic ball. So just be careful out there, folks, for the beginners out there. And I say that because I read this report about pickleball. It was just funny. I was like, wow, it's like an orthopedist dream, this sport. And I was
Yeah.
like, it was nuts because most people don't move backwards and they don't move laterally, right? Like either they just
Hmm.
walk forward, let alone most people don't really like move quickly for like 2 or 3 steps at a time, right? Like the average person that plays pickleball, they need to warm up and they need to strength train. The stronger they can be, the stronger their joints, tendons, the ligaments will be, and the less injuries they'll have. So even something as non-contact sport friendly as pickleball still has its repercussions if you don't strength train, you don't practice mobility, you don't practice any sort of like quick movements like sprinting or running and that sort of a thing. So you just got to be careful.
Yeah, it's crazy how your body forgets how to do things as you get older and you don't use it. So
Yeah.
like you said, moving laterally, like you probably did it all the time as a kid playing sports and things, and then you get
Oh,
older,
for
you
sure.
get out there on the pickleball court and you roll your ankle or you do something
I think I
stupid
think
way to get
one of
hurt.
the best games that kids play that doesn't cost any money. You just need a group of kiddos is tag. And I think before
Hmm.
pickleball, I think you're forcing with pickleball that you should play a quick game of tag on one side of the court just to get elusive. Do that for 5 minutes together, and sounds kind of weird, but trust me on that. Like you'll get warmed up with it, build in your pacing, and you'll probably have a better pickleball game for sure, at least a safer one.
Yeah, and I like the idea of adults playing sports kind of like for exercise, because really you
Hmm.
don't really think of it as exercise. You just think of it as having fun playing a game, but really
Totally.
you're getting exercise in a lot. Like even pickleball, like you're on a small court, but you're moving a lot back and forth.
Oh, for
So
sure. And that's why I think it's great. I'm a fan of all sports that get people outside, get people
mhm.
moving. Even if it's an indoor sport like basketball, or usually basketball's inside. Sometimes they'll be playing outside, but like volleyball or beach volleyball if it's outside, like whatever it might be. Like I'm a fan of having people have fun when they exercise. It doesn't necessarily need to always be arduous and say, I need to lift weights. I think lifting weights is absolutely fantastic. I think getting strong, it doesn't necessarily need to just be running either. It doesn't need to be long, slow running. It could be short, faster running, which is going to be a little bit more effective for most of the people out there, unless your goal is to train for a marathon, right? But if your goal is to like build muscle, burn fat, short, effective bouts of energy are going to be far more effective than just super slow, long distance running.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a lot of people think negative when they think of like working out, because they think it's like
Yeah,
hard and it's gonna suck.
yeah.
And for some people, weightlifting, they may actually like not enjoy it. But for me, like I enjoy weightlifting. I love going to the gym and lifting
Oh, it's
weights.
awesome. You feel
Yeah.
strong. I think guys have, trained quite a bit with weights over the last few decades, especially since like Arnold. And I think women have come of age now into it as well. I'm a huge fan of women lifting weights. I like to say this like with a wide macro grasp of like men should train more like women have trained and women should train more like men have trained, and I say that with all due respect to both sexes out there, and to think that what I mean by that is like men tend to like bench press and lift heavy weights, right? In general, cast that wide swath, right? And some more popular versions of workouts and training before have been Pilates or yoga and that sort of thing. And you put a guy in a lot of those classes, for the most part, the guys that just love to bench and squat and that sort of a thing, just lift heavy weights with very little cardio. And you put them out there and they're doing these distal movements for their shoulders and their hips and everything. It's really hard for them, right? But it's
Mhm.
extremely great for them at the same time. So, in addition to weightlifting and that sort of thing, it's good to use your body weight in calisthenic style movements, and also, move your body in a different manner under a controlled breathing pattern or controlled resistance pattern that certain other workouts help out with. And then women, I think there's a huge push for women to train heavier with weights. They don't need to just lift with, small 2 pound dumbbells the whole time. Women are grabbing barbells nowadays, and for the last few decades have been awesome. I think with that, people saw women in CrossFit. They saw some of the Hollywood movie stars have spoke about how they've weight trained and everything over the last couple decades. Especially you look at like a person like J Lo, or Kim Kardashian. They constantly talk about weight training and everything else, and a lot of women aspire to physically look like them. You've seen, they're not 20 years old either. These are people that have been doing it for decades. And so that you see the benefits that weightlifting has for, quote unquote, A-list celebrities. And hopefully more people start to understand that weightlifting is good for you. It'll lift your butt. It'll get your core tighter. It'll burn, fat far more effectively than a lot of like just slow cardio or that sort of a thing.
Yeah, the women lifting weights is definitely like becoming more and more popular. I see it more now,
Hmm.
and like they're actually understanding the importance of lifting weights and getting
Hmm.
stronger and putting on muscle.
Yeah,
And
exactly. And it's funny too because like before, I guess in years past, like I said, I'm 46 tomorrow, and back in my 20s, I think it was still, the early 2000s, there was still a certain populace of women that like thought that if they touched like any sort of heavy weight, they would like look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. And like they're like guys lift for decades and don't look like Arnold
yeah,
Schwarzenegger. Like it's not gonna happen overnight for you like that, right? And so certain people have a propensity, like in the bodybuilding community, they're training split days for 4 hours a day, 2 hours each session of crazy number of reps and just target training hypertrophy for like each body part. Like that's a whole different style of training versus like general like fitness of doing several sets of curls and overhead presses and some weights and some goblet squats or back barbell squats or whatever it might be, right? Like you're going to get strong and you're going to look great, but you're not going to be. Most people aren't going to have 4 or 5 hours to train themselves, to look like that in the first place. So for the people out there, for the men that want to look like that, don't get frustrated. If you don't have 5 hours, you're still going to get strong as hell. And for the women out there, don't worry, you're not going to look like that if you don't want to look like that. If you do aspire to look like that for men or women, you're going to have to train a lot of volume, right? A lot of volume and a lot of hours in the day, which for the vast majority of people, they just don't have that capability to train those many hours, right?
Yeah, and then especially women, like they just don't have the genetics to put on that much muscle. Like
Yeah.
any woman you see that's like absolutely jacked, she's 100% on steroids. Like
Yeah.
there's no women that just get absolutely jacked that look like a man if they're not on gear. Like they don't have the testosterone. So I mean, yeah, you will have a freak of nature every now and then that just can just put on
Yeah.
muscle,
And
and that
also too,
happens.
like, you have kind of like within people in general, just humans, you have three sets of body type, right? You have an ectomorph, mesomorph, and an endomorph, right? And that's usually somehow or another we all fall within, once again, casting wide generalities, but within science, those are the three style of body types that you have. What I like to say is you can't really like outwork your frame. Like for me, I'm an ectomorph by trade. Like I can't, my body won't really allow me to get really big beyond my capability right now because my frame doesn't support it. Right, I'll get injured before I could get much bigger. Right. An NFL lineman, they're going to be more of an endomorph style, right? Where their hips are a little wider than their shoulders and they're going to be a little bit more rotund and stuff like that. They're going to be ridiculously strong. Are they ever going to be super, super ripped? Probably not, right? And then you have the sweet balance in the middle of a mesomorph, right? Where they can do kind of like a little bit of both, but they could put on weight, they could cut weight a little bit, and that's going to be kind of like your, I guess, like your linebacker meets, wide receiver, tight end style person, depending on, where they're athletic, they're strong, they're lean up to a point, but they also could have a tendency to put on a little extra mass. And once again, those are really wide generalities in the macro version of like body types. But that's also why sometimes you see a guy who put on too much muscle on their frame, and you're like, it's kind of like putting a big house on a small lot. You're like, I can't pinpoint what's going on there, but it doesn't exactly look right, and it's just like, don't outlift your frame to where like you're given your frame from your parents, and it's just like that's your frame. Like you have a certain height, a certain shoulder width, like with your bone structure, and that's what you have to work with, right? You can get your bones stronger, but you can't really like make your bone structure bigger, right? You can't like make your bone structure wider. Like at some point, yeah, well, I could go from like a size 40 to a 42 suit. Of course, could I make my lats a little bit bigger? Of course, right? But I'm not going to go to like a 48, right? You just not going to do that. It just doesn't. You can't like your frame is your frame. You can't bend your bones out in different directions and make them bigger.
Yeah, I definitely am the same as you. Like I'm more on the smaller side, and I've been lifting for 12 years, and at this point, like I'm not getting any bigger really. And now I will say I'm not like training and
Hmm.
eating the way I should to really get much bigger, but I couldn't put on that much more
I
size
mean,
on
you'd
me.
be surprised. You can get like once again, these are wide swath generalized. Since we're talking to like a beginner fitness podcast, there are ways to do it legally, like with protein and creatine and that sort of a thing. I'm a big fan of creatine. I've taken creatine for decades now, and I think it's very good. I've taken it since my track and field days, and I still take it. And they come out with a whole host of benefits on it, from cognitive benefits that they've studied to like what I've seen, even for my own like one-to-one performance of what I've seen with myself when I'm on creatine. I know my lifts will be a little bit stronger after I've been on it for a couple weeks. I know my speed will be just a smidge faster after I've been on it for a couple weeks. But I usually probably put on 2 pounds of water weight because the water gets retained in the muscles. That's fine. I mean, it doesn't bother me one way or another. But I do think like in general, like if you're a skinnier ectomorph style guy, you have a chance to be ripped if you do it in the right way, where you put on the muscle. you could trim yourself up pretty quickly and build that muscle, especially as you get in your 20s and 30s when your testosterone's still relatively high, but your muscle structure is probably filled out to like what we call grown man strength or whatever, compared to like your teenage self. When I was a teenager, I was 135 pounds and 6 feet tall, right? I mean, granted, I was running a lot. I was, running, 40 miles a week, extremely tired and like doing sprints around the track all day long. So I was just eating. I couldn't eat enough to keep up, right? Like eat enough protein to keep up with what I had to do. Um, and so, but when I stopped running, I put on 40 pounds of muscle in a year. Literally just from like, I maybe went from like running 40 miles a week to like running 2. And it was all sprint based, like style, plyometric style training, more of like a sprinter would train. And then a ton of lifting heavy weights. And I literally like ballooned up by 40 pounds to a natural weight that I've been at since that day of like right around like 175 to 180 is what I call like my natural playing weight at 6 feet tall. And that's really where I've been since I was in my early 20s and probably will be for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I'm very similar. I played sports through college as well, and I was always pretty skinny. I always worked out, but like it's like you said, I couldn't eat enough food to literally like put on weight.
Yeah.
And as soon
What
as
did
I
you
got
play?
out of in high school, I played baseball and football. In college, I was a cheerleader.
Oh,
So
nice. Oh, okay. So you got to be
yeah,
strong for that, though.
yeah. So I was basically doing 2 days every day. I would work out in the gym and then go to practice, and we basically do
Yeah,
another workout at practice.
yeah. And
So
you gotta be strong as heck for that, for sure, for
So
sure.
yeah, but I definitely put on some weight after college, like good weight and muscle weight. I can't remember exactly how much I put on, probably about 15, 20 pounds. Not nowhere near,
Mhm.
not 40 though. I didn't put on that much, but
Yeah,
I definitely put
yeah.
some size on
I think I
after.
was undersized for a long time,
Yeah.
given the extremes that I had to like train at to stay competitive, and then generally like runners are really strong, but the less weight you carry, the more efficient you will be at running, right? So the
Hmm.
stronger you can be with the less weight, just pure physics right there, you're able to produce more force and then move quicker, right? Just because you're lighter, but still able to produce the same force to the ground. That's why, like, when you see an NFL player, they're not going to be as fast as a track and field athlete, right? Because they're generally carrying a lot more weight. Like Usain Bolt, even I forget he was like 6'5", but I think he was like 180 pounds at most or something like that when he was, and you'd be like, wow, he looked so ripped and strong. And you're like, yeah, because he had zero, like he had like barely any fat in him, and he was like a pure power athlete, right? Like he was an amazing specimen of a person at that time when he was at the peak fitness of his life and setting world records. And then sometimes you get these like the NFL guys that say that they're really fast and they jump into track, and you're like, they're super fast for the amount of mass that they're carrying, but they're no way
Hmm.
in competitive with track because track and field is just everyone's so fast, like so
Hmm.
fast compared. I mean, you could probably take even a world class 800-meter runner and they'd probably beat 99% of the guys in the NFL in a 40-yard dash. They're just that fast, even for a middle distance 800-meter runner.
Yeah. When you have the track, I think the specificity of like track, you focus on
Oh, for
sprinting,
sure.
makes a
Because in
huge
football, you
difference.
need speed. You need
Yeah.
speed, and it's kind
And
of
you
like
need lateral
football.
movement too.
Yeah, exactly. But there's track is linear speed, right? And then
Hmm.
football is zigzag back and forth, like every multi-directional pattern. And also something in football that in sports in general, football, lacrosse, soccer, there's it's something that we don't talk a lot about unless you're in a very like high level training community is deceleration. So the ability to decelerate in sports is imperatively important. That comes from
Hmm.
strength, right? Where you can apply force to the ground quickly, your joints, tendons, ligaments need to be super strong to absorb that force and impact so you can cut and be multi-directional athlete, right? Be elusive. Think of like my favorite player of all time in the NFL was Barry Sanders, having grown up in the Detroit area in the 80s and 90s. And so I love Barry and like to see him play running back for the Lions and just to see him be so effective. His deceleration patterns and the way that he was able to just do these like zigzag runs and just everything about it was just beautiful. It's like poetry in motion to watch, especially when you had like NFL films slow it down. You could see him actually do it. You'd be like, oh my goodness. And these players look like the defensive players would just look like they're like being thrown off of him because he's being so elusive. But it was a lot of his deceleration patterns that could help out with that. But he was so strong too at the same time.
Yeah, they're definitely training for different sports, so it's not
For sure.
comparable. Yeah. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
so when it comes to your training, So what's your clientele look like? Are you strictly online, or are you doing any in-person training?
Not I don't do any in-person training anymore since COVID. I switched
Mhm.
everything online in 2020, and I've been very happy with it. All my clients have been happy with that. So I offer several different abilities to train with me. One is my app, Chris Ryan Fitness. It's available in the Apple Store and the iOS Store and the Google Play Store for Android users, and you can cast it right onto your smart TV and play it. Like you had said, you're like, wow, that's impressive catalog of workouts, like hundreds and
Mhm.
hundreds of workouts. And so you literally take the app for 2+ years, and I don't think you ever repeat it every day, do a new workout, and you won't ever repeat one workout, which is super cool. And proud to be proud of that as well, of the great, amazing library that we built out. But at the same time, like I said, it's for beginners, intermediate, advanced level people. But I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible. Doesn't that mean that it's easy, right? Because the advanced workouts are extremely hard. And even the beginner workouts are going to be effectively hard for the right person, building up,
Mhm.
like there's programs within there too. So each one is set up for success for that individual. But they're geared in so that you don't need a lot of equipment. You don't need like all this equipment behind me. This is just my own gym. I love to have my own little like play space and studio set up. But you just need some dumbbells, and a mini band and a resistance band, and you're good to go for the at home based workouts, which are minimal investment, if you will. You don't even need to go to the gym. And so a lot of people sometimes aren't comfortable going to the gym. They just don't want to go to the gym for a whole host of reasons. It's too far. They know that they'll be more consistent with their workouts if they work out from home. They can just roll out of bed or do a training session at night before they go to bed, that sort of a thing, if they have busy days after the kids go to bed. So for me, it was really kind of keeping people as consistent as possible, which is the number one factor in success for any endeavor in life, whether it's fitness or financial or relationship wise or anything else. Be consistent in your approach to that, whatever your goal might be. And then also I do executive training, kind of basically what I would call one-to-one accountability training, where it's a little bit more premium pricing, but it's much more hand-holding and keeping people accountable for their overall fitness goals, right? So that's really where I'm at. I have a 3-month program and a 6-month program for those individuals that are looking for something a little bit more bespoke for themselves, that's strictly geared in on them and their own goals, rather than just general overall fitness, which captures a wide net of people. But then I always get contacted by people saying, "Oh, I need more accountability. I need somebody that like can email me every other day to make sure I did my workouts and that sort of thing." So that kind of comes into a little bit more of that approach as well, and a little bit more guidance on certain nutrition or fitness plans based on certain goals. Like if you're a marathoner but you've been injured before, develop me a strength training program around marathon training that won't put on size but keep me strong and that sort of a thing. I'm coming back postpartum after having my third child. Like, how do I go back safely and effectively with that, training?
Yeah, the accountability piece is the biggest part when it comes to personal training, especially nowadays with all the free content and free things you can get
Totally.
online, especially with the AI and stuff. You can get all the information you need, but if you don't do it, then it don't do you any good. So the
Exactly, 100%.
accountability
You
is
just hit it on the
huge.
head. Yeah, you put it. Yeah, 100%. You hit it on the head because it's just one of those things that there's so much free content out there, which is good and bad,
Hmm.
that you almost become a deer in the headlights as a consumer, right? Like where you're just like, you can watch all the fitness content you want, but if you're not really following like a program and you're just kind of doing a bunch of haphazard workouts, you're not really gonna get where you want to go. Like you gotta like do like certain style program, do it repetitively, right? Like build that program in, follow that said program. Don't just do like random videos and random dates because it makes you feel good, and it's going to lead to inconsistencies usually for most of us. Not everyone. Maybe everyone. Some people can easily pick out a YouTube workout and say, "I'm going to move my body today." Cool. But most of the time, people like use it for entertainment purposes, where they like watch something and they're kind of more enthused with the instructor or the fitness professional on the other side of the camera, and they're watching them and they're like, "Oh, they look so great doing those moves." And I'm kind of following along, but then at the end of the day, they're not really doing the workout. They're watching it more like almost like one would watch a sporting event or a TV show.
Yeah, I'm the type of person. If you give me a plan, I can follow it to a T.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people don't operate that way, so it's good to have
Yeah,
a
sometimes
coach.
people have
Yeah.
done that before, like, where it's just like, "Oh, here's your Excel spreadsheet. Cool, great, I
Yeah,
love it."
and see, I can do that, but I know a lot of other people, they don't function
Yeah,
that way. So I recommend people all the time, like, especially if you're a beginner, start with a trainer. Like, get a trainer because they're gonna help you. They're gonna like cut down your learning time into like a
totally.
much
It'll
shorter. Yeah.
it'll help you be more consistent, which is, like I said, the number one, factor that will make you as effective as possible with whatever your goals are. Whether it's, like I said, financial, you gotta get a certain amount of your money taken out of your paycheck and put it in your retirement plan and watch it just compound over the course of time. And if it's your relationships, you got to put in those date nights with your spouse. And, if it's your kids, you got to, put in the TLC with your kids to be the best parent you can be. And, set aside time to do their homework and ask them about their day and, take them on a carpool to their practices and stuff and be a great parent. But you're going to have to show up and be consistent with those endeavors to make it worth your while, right?
So do you have a certain kind of training philosophy that you use with your clients? Like, for example, what I mean is like a style of training. So like I like to do like bodybuilding style training. Do you have one that you like personally like, or
I
does
think,
it
well,
vary on the client?
it depends. Well, the workouts for instance, the workouts on my app are broken apart into different styles of training. So there's
Mm.
like strength classes, there's cardio classes, and there's stretch and mobility classes. And then from each of those fall down into different microcosms within those macro views. So like within the strength classes, you have things broken down to body part training. So you have arms only classes, then you have arms and abs classes, then you have chest, back, and abs classes. You have a strength total body, and then you have a strength butt and legs workout, right? So all those workouts, and then you have each of those workouts offers beginner, intermediate, and advanced level. So you get a lot of different Baskin Robbins 31 flavors type going on right there, just in that pattern. And then you have programs broken out for each of those, so that it's very well thought out for everyone from beginner to an advanced level person, for sure. And then within the cardio side, you have cardio boot camp classes. Once again, all three levels, beginner, intermediate, advanced, that are all body weight. So think more of like boot camps, like doing things along the lines of like high knees, lateral runs, like little like skater style jump side to side, depending on, or walking skater style, depending on if you're at a beginner and there's no jumping involved in the beginner level classes. But the advanced level classes will have burpees in there and split jumps and all this other stuff, and you just pile of sweat when you're done and your heart rate's up in the best way. And then you have cardio and strength classes, which could be coupled with half and half with some sort of like strength based component, coupled with cardio style movements as well. And those are fun. And sometimes I teach those with a kettlebell as well as dumbbells or body weight movements. So like those are tons of different styles of classes for each individual. But once again, every one of those classes is built out to beginner, intermediate, and advanced level, so that the app has something for everyone. And for me, my coaching style, I think it's fun and educational. I'm not a drill sergeant coach. I'm not your best friend. I make it very fun and approachable, regardless of wherever you're at, but not cheesy or anything like that. Very authentic to who I am as a person. A guy from the Midwest, and I love exercise and fitness. And I always tell people I want your goals as much as you want them for yourself, right? Like I'll cheer you on every step of the way, but I can't do the work for you. I will show you, I'll guide you, I'll shepherd you to those goals, but it's up to you to like do that goal, right? You have to lift the weight. You have to do the jumping jack. You have to do the squats. You have to eat healthy. You have to drink your water. You have to go to bed to make sure you get your rest and recovery properly as well. You have to go to bed and get your 8 hours of sleep and that sort of a thing. You can't hit the snooze button when you're supposed to work out in the morning.
Yeah, you mentioned like you want them to hit their goals just as much as they do. I think that's huge when it comes to looking for a coach or a trainer. When you're looking for somebody to hire, you got to find somebody that wants you to succeed just as much as you want to succeed. Because I did a little personal training for a little while, and I figured out real quick it wasn't for me. Because like people they just wouldn't do what I tell them to do, and
Yeah, you got to be
it's
patient. You got to
frustrating.
be
Yeah.
patient. Yeah, because that's one of the most frustrating things for me too, is where people like to find excuses in life, right? I like
Hmm.
to find the successes for those people, though, that like sometimes don't believe in themselves, or they want to think the glass is half full instead of or half empty instead of half full. And so for me, I think, each day is a blessing on this planet, and I feel like you got to be your best self. And like the minute you can start moving your body and exercising, it will compound immense benefits for every day forward if you just keep on doing that for decades forward, for your own longevity, right? And you only have one go around on this planet, and you got to make sure that you operate at the best of your capability, And I think when you get in your mid 40s, you kind of like are old enough to see people get older that you love, like your parents, maybe your grandparents have passed on, and maybe you are fortunate enough to have a family and you have some children as well, so you're raising the next generation below you. And then as a parent, you're kind of in that purgatory of like making a living and building a business, or working and whatever, and raising children, and then seeing older people around you that you love, like your parents, get older. So you kind of got to burn the wick burning at both ends, if you will, right? And that's life. That's a cycle of life, right? But I think sometimes you start to see your own, your own longevity, and you see certain circumstances that maybe your loved ones that are older than you did things either right or wrong, and you're like, hey, wow, like my parents trained with weights, and I saw them age properly and for the decades ahead, and I'm like, I see the benefits of strength training. I don't need to read a journal from the National Strength and Conditioning Association or the American College of Sports Medicine to understand that weight training is highly beneficial compared to everyone else that I saw, my friends' parents that didn't weight train and smoked or drank or ate crappy food and that sort of a thing. I'm like, yeah, I clearly see the benefits of living a healthy lifestyle, and I'll take that any day over the others, because, like you're gonna fare so much better in your life, especially as you get older.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because like at the YMCA that I work out at, it's nothing but old people in there, and you
Hmm.
can tell that they've been just training for years because I mean, they're 60, 70, some of them 80 years old, and they still go to the gym every day. They can
Yeah,
walk around. They can walk around just fine. They can lift. I mean, they're not doing a bunch of weight, but they can lift the weights. They're
yeah.
not slumped over. They're not. They don't age like normal people age. So
Yeah.
there's definitely you can definitely see it. Like just walk into a gym and just look at the old people in there. You can tell they're in a lot better shape
Well,
than other people
yeah,
their
for
age.
sure. For sure. And I feel like people need to understand that you don't really have a choice in that matter, because every day that you're on this planet, you get a little older, right? Like that's a blessing, right? Like that you get older, because the other option isn't what something I want to deal with right now, right? So it's like if you age by one day every single day, you're gonna that's the good part, right? The bad part is things will compound either positively for you or negatively for you, right? And it's
Hmm.
kind of like you're trying to like kick father time down the curb as far as possible for yourself for you know like when you're 55, you could be more of like a 40-year-old, and when you're 70, you could be more like a 55-year-old if you do the right things. And you see it within the science. The different reports that are coming out in this day and age, they're just highly beneficial, not just with strength training, but your VO2 max, right? Like your cardio capacity, your ability for like grip strength, like we were talking about, your strength in your feet, knees, and ankles, so that you have less slip and falls, so that you're not going to be in the hospital from a slip and fall in your 70s or 80s, which that is one of the leading causes of death for older folks and senior citizens, is a slip and fall. Maybe not necessarily from that exact slip and fall, but what happens after that slip and fall, where they have to go to the hospital and all of a sudden they get an infection, or maybe they had a brain contusion, or they get an infection at the hospital and they're not coming back out, unfortunately. So it's just like the ability to stay healthy, paramount to your success, to have a healthy longevity life, for sure.
Yeah, you don't realize how serious like older people fall in this. Like my
Yeah,
wife's like my grandparents are getting older, and my wife's grandparents are getting older, and they have fallen a few times, and they can't get up. Like they can't pick themselves up. They have to
yeah,
call either my wife's father, or they've had to call the ambulance a couple times to come and pick them up.
yeah,
So it's very serious, and you don't like me. I don't think of it because if I fall, I'm just gonna get right back up. I don't think twice
totally,
about it.
right.
But when you get to that age, you don't think about it. But like they physically cannot pick themselves up, so like it could cause major issues.
100%, 100%. Let alone with your bones and that sort of a thing. If you have osteoporosis or you slip a disc or whatever it is, it's like even beyond of having to go to the hospital. It's just like, what happened? Did you break a bone? And then the ability to reset that bone in the latter part of your decades is hard. It's hard on you, you know?
Hmm.
Like when
And
you're
just
older, you
don't
just want to live
cover.
every day the best you can. I want to chase the grandkids around and play some golf or tennis, lift some weights, like whatever it might be, go for a run, go for a hike, probably a little slower than I do right now, but you're still getting active at it and getting after it.
Yeah. So one thing I did want to ask you about on your website, is that you on the Men's Fitness
Yeah,
magazine?
I was fortunate enough to be on Men's Fitness for like 4 covers, about 10
So,
years ago or
so how
so.
does that? How do you get on that? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I just did. I was signed by Wilhelmina in the fitness modeling world, so I was on NBC Strong as well, which is the TV show back in 2015, 2016. That was on NBC primetime from The Biggest Loser, American Ninja Warrior executive producers, and Sylvester Stallone was also an executive producer on that as well. So I was considered one of America's top 10 trainers. It was a huge vetting process and casting process to go through that. And that was absolutely amazing. And then I just started writing for different magazines and working in as an on-camera talent as well in the fitness modeling world, and working for brands like Nike and Adidas, like all the big brands out, Under Armour a bunch. And so I was in ads and just all this other stuff with them, and I built my business and picking up clients in the New York City area in the 2010s, and eventually that parlayed into other facets of the business. But I always had my business mindset head on as well, where I would talk to people. I would see what was going on in the fitness world. I saw a brand like Mirror come into play in the latter part of the 2010s and the 2018 timeframe, and they signed on with them, and then they were bought out by Lululemon for $500 million. I was one of the founding trainers for them, and then after my non-compete ended with Lululemon in 2024, I was able to start up my own app, and here we are today, right?
That's
But
awesome.
this
That's
is
pretty
this has
cool.
been great, Murphy. I really appreciate you having me on your podcast, and
Absolutely.
anything I can do to help out beginners out there to find their best self, their strongest self. I think the Chris Ryan Fitness app is a fantastic area to start. What's really cool too is people should know there's a 7-day free trial, so they can just go on chrisryanfitness.com, sign up for a free 7-day trial. They get 100% full access to the app and all those hundreds of workouts that they could ever want to do in their lives. They get to see the different programs, the nutrition plans, the recipes, all that stuff on there as well. And if there's ever any questions out there, they can always hit me up at chris@chrisryanfitness.com over email, and I'll answer those directly as well.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll put your website down in the description too. So if y'all want it, just click that link. It'll take you out to his website. So yeah,
Thank you
thank you for
so much.
joining the podcast. I enjoyed it.
Of course, I did too. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And that's gonna do it for today's podcast episode. Y'all be sure to tune in next week for another episode of the Fitness Beginner Podcast. Y'all have a great day.